Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint what I'm calling Nature's Valentine. It is a photograph from a local photographer, Lori Sitten, and she gave me permission to use it. It's got a little heart shape at the lake view. It's so pretty. Awesome. I was so excited when I saw this. So I think it'll be perfect for Valentine's Day coming up. Got my husband Mark with me.
Happy Valentine's Day.
A little early, but thank you.
Well, yes. They don't know.
Yeah, so we're going to be painting this and taking chat questions. Let's get started. Alrighty, I am using a 12 by 9 by 12 canvas here, Fredrix Mixed Media Canvas board. Whatever you've got is fine. I just thought this would be a good size. It's the same ratio as our photograph. I have not painted the background. Normally I like do maybe a light color in the background. If you want to do that, you could do like a yellow, but there's a lot of white in the sky, and I thought it would be better just to paint around the white. So we're just going to paint around the clouds today instead of doing a big wash of color to start. We'll see how that goes. So I haven't really prepped the canvas at all. It's just plain canvas ready to go. If you don't use I've got a very smooth texture on this canvas. If you're using a more textured canvas, you might want to give it a couple coats of gesso just to kind of smooth it out just a little bit. That'll help because we're doing some sort of blending and things like that today. But I think this is going to be fairly easy. I'm going to try to keep it simplified and simplify the sky and the clouds. So if you're scared of clouds, hopefully you won't be after this lesson. I promise you they won't be that bad.
Maybe clowns, but not clouds.
Right, exactly. Exactly. All right. As for clouds, you're going to want kind of a stiff bristle brush for that. So I've got 3 different sizes of kind of a filbert here. This one is the short filbert Aspen, and then I've got the blenders 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch here, and then a Deerfoot Stippler. So any of these will do for your clouds. And for the foliage, I'm going to probably use these potentially, or use like either a sponge. Since there's such a large area around the corners, I might just use a sponge. Sponges are great for larger, covering larger areas. And then I've also got a little bristle brush here that will also kind of do some foliage textures. And then we're going to do some individual leaves with, believe it or not, our angle brushes. So they're really good for doing little leaf shapes, and we're just going to be dabbing the tips of them down to do the leaves that are kind of in the outer area that we really can see. So that'll be 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch angle brush, really whatever size angle brush you've got. Grab it. It's not going to really matter the size. And then you're going to want a liner brush of some sort just to do, there's a few lines of branches that we're seeing, not very many, but just something like that. Or even a black marker with a fine nib acrylic marker. And I've got the number 4 round. I'll show you how to do leaves with that as well. All right, that's it for brushes. Let's go over our colors. Our carbon black's going to go right here. I don't have it out yet, but I've got some carbon black that is fluid. It's just going to sit there for a bit until we get ready to do our heart shape around it, so I didn't put it out yet. I've got cadmium yellow light, way too much. I don't need that much. I don't know why I put that much out. I'm going to need probably 1/4 of that, so don't do what I did. Indian yellow hue, Pyrrole orange, and I put that out. We may not use it. If we needed a little bit of punchier brightness in the sky, we can use that to help. Quinacridone Magenta, and then for the blue, I chose Prussian blue, which has kind of got a little bit of phthalo blue and ultramarine blue mixed together with a little bit of black, or kind of dioxazine purple, I think is in there too. So if you don't have that, just grab any kind of slightly green leaning blue. Cerulean blue would probably work. Phthalo blue green shade would work. Ultramarine blue would work if you just add a little bit of yellow. So I think any of those would work, but Prussian blue is probably closest to what I'm seeing in our photograph. Unbleached titanium, titanium white, zinc white, which is a transparent white. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. We can just add some water to your titanium white, it'll be fine. And then gloss glazing liquid to finish us out, just to help us with any blending and things we need to do. All right, phew. Let's get going. Let's paint. All right, so for drawing, I'm not going to do a whole lot because there's not a whole lot to draw. There's just a kind of a really nice horizon line, and it's not quite halfway. I'm going to kind of keep it just slightly. There's our halfway mark, so I'm going to come down maybe an inch off a halfway and just do. Now with water, it's really important to do a straight line. So if you need to get a ruler, you can do that. Whoa! Oh my goodness. That's my new clean ruler too. See, I have my clean ruler and my dirty ruler. And my poor clean ruler is now
It is an X
munched.
clean ruler.
It's an X clean ruler. Oh, no. Okay, palette knife. I'll scrape it off. Poor ruler. At least it was on the opposite side from the numbers, so I can still see the numbers through it. That's not too bad. I can still use it. Okay, thank you. Give it a bath. Poor ruler. Well, as I was saying, you can use a ruler to help you with your horizon line when it comes to this. For now, that's really all I need, is just kind of a line, and later on I'll make sure that I get it perfectly straight there. All righty. Well, since we've got white on our palette knife, let's go ahead and mix up some yellow that I'm seeing in the sky. That's just kind of one of the main colors in the sky. And we're not going to need a lot of that cadmium yellow light. Again, I don't really know why I put that much out. I'm going to have to like use that to ground a canvas or something at the end of this paint. Because you can see how bright that is just without... just barely little bit of that yellow. And I think that'll probably be pretty close to what I want. I might make it a little bit more golden. The Indian Yellow Hue has a little bit more of an orangey tone, so let me use some of that. It is much more, well, less impactful. It's much more transparent than the cadmium yellow light, so it does not... in this case, some transparent colors do this, so this is not all transparent colors, but Indian Yellow Hue does not impact the color. It doesn't have as much tinting strength, it's called. So it won't, you need to use a little bit more of it than I used of the cadmium yellow to tint that. So it's probably 50-50, maybe a little bit more of the Indian Yellow Hue here to get this kind of neutral yellow. I think that'll look good in our sky, and if we need a little bit brighter pop, we can use this one. I do see some brighter pops of yellow down in the water. Now the water half is going to be basically the same colors as the top, but maybe just slightly darker, slightly more intense colors down here. All right. Let's see, what else do we want to mix up? Let's go ahead and I kind of started out with some white here. So let's go ahead and use a little bit of this Pyrrole orange. Again, not a lot at all, and a little bit of the magenta. So kind of 50-50 there. And I'll use that with the white, and it's very pink, but I have all this yellow on my palette knife. So I'm just kind of what was left over there. I'm going to use that and scrape this up. When you notice when I'm using a palette knife, I will scrape it into a smaller area. That's because as I spread this paint out, it will dry a lot faster the thinner it's spread out on my palette. So if I want to keep it wet longer, I need to keep it in a smaller area, just kind of like our little paint daubs over here. All right, so adding a little bit more of the orange and a little bit more of the Indian yellow. Wanted a little bit more orange. Look at how a lot of that orange, that little bit of that orange goes a long way. Okay, there we go. That's probably a little bit saturated. So, but we'll see. We're gonna kind of use blues to influence the colors here. There's a lot of blues in the sky, and we can use those blues to kind of tone down these brighter colors. But I've got a couple of colors now that I can kind of use in my sky, and this will get us started. All right, so I've got an orange, kind of a soft peachy orange, and a soft yellow, golden yellow. All right. Well, let's get to painting. So our sun, what?
Nothing. I figured myself out.
Oh,
I turned up the wrong slider, so I heard you say the same thing twice. I was like, why is she repeating herself? Oh, she didn't.
all righty. Let me see. Okay, so we've got kind of an area here that is bright here and here that's sort of yellowish. So let me just gonna kind of mark that out. And you can kind of use that as your mid, like your horizon line there is below the mountain. So it's the line of the water meeting the shoreline. That's our horizon line there, or our water line. And that is going to be the midpoint of our reflections in our sky right there and there. And then we've got another area just above it right here that is white. And then in the water, it's actually kind of yellow. So we're not seeing that white in the water. It's more yellow. Okay, so those are going to be our major areas of light that I want to protect and not go too dark too fast. So I'm just kind of marking those out because those will be important to know. And then I'm just going to jump right in with some white here and grab a little bit of that yellow. I want it pretty bright. So I'm just going to, and I'm going to go fairly thick. The nice thing about the Aspen brushes is they are kind of chunkier. They're a little bit more stiff bristled, so you can kind of push the paint around a little bit. You can go a little thicker with your paint, and they don't get floppy or like a real. It's like a fake hog bristle brush or a faux hog bristle. So a real hog bristle brush in this situation would get. If you added water, it would get soggy really fast and it wouldn't push the paint around like it does here. So I'm just looking at my white areas of my clouds and I'm just kind of putting some of this white in. And while that is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and kind of start adding some of the yellows in too that I'm seeing. And don't get too worried about the exact placement of any of this because clouds move, they do all kinds of stuff, so we don't have to be perfect with them. I think just get it close, get it close to what you're seeing and you'll be good. And all right, there we go. So let's go ahead and get some of the orange now. And I'm adding water to this because these paints are kind of thick, being heavy body acrylics. They're thick, so they don't want to move around very easily. So you have to add a little bit of water to them to help them out. Make them go where you want them to go. Not too much though, and you can add glazing medium if you add a lot of water to it. Okay, again, you don't want too much because it'll also go kind of transparent on you if you add too much. But I want these kind of the existing color that I put down there to sort of blend with these a little bit. So I'm kind of deliberately crossing over into the white. And if it's not blending enough for you, if the white seems like it's getting kind of dry, you can get a little bit more of it. I would say you probably want to do a small area. Don't try to do the whole canvas first. Just kind of concentrate on a small area. And then as that seems to be drying, then you can move on and let it dry completely before you add more layers. Acrylics don't like to be messed with while they're drying. They're kind of like me in the morning. You don't want to mess with me until I've woken up fully.
Amen.
Mark knows that.
What? Did you hear that?
Experience.
Must be the air conditioner or something.
All right, I'm getting just a tiny touch of this Prussian blue. I'm adding it a little bit to that yellow and actually getting some of that unbleached titanium, which actually has yellow oxide and burnt sienna, and it's white with yellow oxide and burnt sienna. So it will give me, oh, that's way too much blue. I don't know why I did that. meant to get more yellow. All right, there we go. So we've got kind of a light greenish color that I'm seeing down here in the water. That may be a little dark, but it's kind of hard to tell yet because, you know, we don't have any, the white on the canvas is kind of affects the way the values of the colors look. So the colors may look darker when you first put them down, then they will dry. They do dry darker though. So, but I'm just saying, you know, it may take us a minute to get our values quite just adjusted correctly, but I'm trying to get as close to the right value as I can. And it's not super dark right there. So, but there is kind of a definite like bluish tone to the water, almost green, blue-green right there, being affected by the light in the sunset. And I'm just kind of blending over, putting the thicker paint on in the areas where I know I want the full coverage. And then once the paint's mostly out of my brush, then I'm going in and kind of trying to sort of blend it into other areas. So don't try to go in here with a full brush full of paint and try to blend and get a soft edge. You won't be able to get a soft edge. You'll end up putting a bunch more paint down than you really want. So just kind of wait till that brush is mostly dry out of paint, and then kind of come into these areas where you want to add a little bit. That looks good. Let's go ahead and up in the sky, it's not quite as dark, so I'm going to get the yellow, and I'm going to do up here with more yellow and maybe a little bit of white. The white will help make it a little bit lighter too. Yellow will already make it a little bit lighter because yellow is a lighter color than the blue. So it'll lighten it up just by adding yellow, but we want it a little bit more, so that white just helps. Okay, so here we go. And again, kind of just, I'm not worried about, the mountain's going to go on here too, so actually probably need to leave myself a little bit more room here because I need to put in my mountain. Let me go ahead and do my kind of a rudimentary mountain really quick so that I know sort of where it is. So it's going to be mostly black, but just go across here, try to get it as straight as I can.
Here we got a question.
I think that's tilted some. Let me see. No, we did all right. Maybe just come down a little bit on this side. What is the question?
The question is, the person would like to know why you didn't start with blue as an underlayer in the background.
Oh, because there's too much yellow in the sky. If I started with blue, my sky would be green, and it would be really hard to get it back to a bright white right here where we want it bright and white and yellow. So that just saves me from having to do 12 more layers of color to get it back to a white. That's why I didn't do yellow too, because even yellow in this area would have shone through my white so much. I decided to leave it white because there's so much white in this particular sky. So yeah, that's why. If I was to do the blue, I probably would have done a blue up here. And I almost did it this way. I almost did dark blue wash and used like a large brush. This would be another way of doing it. There's no right or wrong way of doing it, really. There's just, it's choices, you know. Some choices you may regret. So more than others, life choices. So using a large brush like this, I could have like used a little bit of white on the corner and started with the blue up here. Or actually I probably would have started with the white on the full brush and done all the way across, and then started adding more blue just to the corner and worked its way up. And then by the time I got up here, it would be full blue at the top. So that's another way of doing the sky. And then I would have had, you know, a little bit of gradation in the sky. And I probably actually still will use this brush. I might just go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and get some white here and some Prussian blue. And my brush was dry, so I need to wet it down first. That was.
And I also posted in the chat the link to your video a couple weeks ago where you showed the different underlayer color
Right.
effects.
Yes.
So they can watch that too and see
Yeah,
how that would change
absolutely.
everything.
Oh, for sure. And you can change the colors however you want on this. You know, you don't have to keep the same colors as I've got.
Oh,
or
wait a
in
minute.
The, in the photo.
What do you mean? There's no rules?
No, it's your painting. Do you? All right, I'm going to get a little bit of glaze. That'll just kind of help it stick because I've kind of got this pretty transparent. And I'm going to go ahead and go across. You can see how I loaded it with blue at the top. And then the bottom has the lighter blue. And I'm not going to go over my yellow too much. I'm just going to stop right about there. And I really do need a little bit darker. So I get more of that Prussian blue, a little bit heavier paint. I think I added too much water here. It's very soupy. All right, so that'll get us a start. It's not as far down as I want it to go, but that'll get us at least moving in the right direction here. And I'm going to get some white and that phthalo blue, or that Prussian blue, I should say. And I'm going to add it in here. There's like a little blue peeking out right here. Just a little bit. And get some cadmium yellow, a little bit of that Prussian blue. Just make it a little bit more kind of a teal, almost, yeah, almost like a teal color. This blue may not have been the best choice. I might have been better to just do phthalo blue because this is kind of desaturated a little bit more than I want it. But that's all right. Yeah, it's not quite as bright here. I'm gonna add a cobalt teal to my palette, and I think that will help get that color a little bit brighter where I want it.
And what do you think that?
What?
That'll get you the palette that you want?
Huh?
It'll get you the palette that you want?
I'm hoping. We'll see. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to get phthalo blue out,
Ooh,
which is another option.
like a last resort.
That'd be the nuclear option.
When all else fails, they call in phthalo blue.
The phthalo blue. It is the powerhouse for sure. It's just, again, though, it's kind of overpowering, you know. It kind of, it's good, but I was trying to reduce the number of blues that I was adding, and it didn't really work. So I probably should have just stuck with the two blues that I normally use, which is phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. But I thought I could get Prussian blue to this color, and it's really not quite working. So it needed a little bit of a punch of green or teal, you know, in here, just in this area. Okay, now this is where it gets tricky because you're dealing with two complementary colors here right next to each other. You've got the cerulean or, you know, cyan type of blue right here and an orange, which are opposite on the color wheel. So if you mix these two together directly, you're going to get mud. So just kind of be careful when you're doing this to do this over dry orange. Do these sections in, you know, in stages. So don't try to blend your orange directly into your blue because you will turn out with the brown color and it won't be pretty. So it helps if you kind of know what your colors are going to do when you mix them together. All right, and then I'm going to go a little bit darker right here. I'm going to get a little bit more of that Prussian blue and a little bit more of that cobalt teal. A little bit of water. And just in here, I'm going to make sure that that sky is dry. I think it is. It's not lifting off on me or anything, it looks like. It's doing okay. This is mostly going to be covered by trees, but I do want it to be visible. And if you want to, you can take your brush that you used previously and just very lightly kind of pull it through that wet paint. See how it kind of softens and blends it out. But make sure that you're putting enough paint down here and that everything else is dry. Otherwise, you could move things too much, lift things off. So just kind of, if you know how acrylics are going to react, it makes it a little bit less scary when you're doing things. So I know that I don't want to add a lot of water at this point. If I added water over this paint that is wet here, or that is kind of a little bit thicker, if I add water to it, it will wash it off. So I'll just be basically wiping my brush clean of, or wiping my canvas clean of paint. And if I do that up here where it's super thick, it will really lift it all off. So I don't want to do that. I was showing you what not to do there, not doing that on purpose. Don't add the water to that part of the canvas. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so there we go. So we've got a nice kind of soft gradation in the sky there, and some little brighter pops of blue down here. So now I'm going to get my white, and this had a little bit of blue down here, so I'm just kind of pulling down into that blue, and I'm going to add back in my white over the top. And this is where I can use the Zinc White because it's transparent, so it'll go over the blue but not be as obvious. It'll still have a little bit of that blue shining through. So I'm kind of using like 50-50 white, titanium white and zinc white. Again, if you don't have it, just add maybe a little glazing medium or something to your titanium white so it's just a little bit softer. And see how it softens off all of that blue now. It looks a little bit better. It doesn't look as harsh. See, really nice. This is the key for clouds, I think, is zinc white. It's kind of a secret little secret sauce here. Using it kind of just softens everything up. And if you have an area where you really need it, much more light, then use the titanium white. But if you just kind of want a subtle softening of an edge of your clouds, then there you go. That is doing a really good job of it. And now I've got a really nice soft blend between that blue sky and my clouds. All right, and I'm forgetting to do my water. I'm supposed to be doing my water too while I'm doing up here. So I need to do my water really quick. I'm going to go ahead and get this brush and use it down here. And just use what's left of it in my water. Okay. There we go. All right, and I want to get a lot of water in there. I'm not going to try to clean it out right now. I'm just going to get really full of water and set it off to the side here and try to keep it wet so that it doesn't dry out. You don't want to let your acrylics dry in your brush. It ruins them. It will not come out once it's dry. And I've tried all of the different different brush recovery things, and none of them work for me. I've never once been able to get a brush back once it gets paint dried down in the ferrule. It's like cement. Yeah, acrylics dry really like a plastic, and you can kind of dissolve them, but unless you get all of it out, you're not gonna get it, back. Okay, so I've grabbed this orange that we made before, and I've added my Indian Yellow Hue to it. I'm going to use it down here in my water. Now my blue is still wet over here, so I have to be careful not to blend too much into that, because otherwise I'll get mud, remember? But I can do it up here where this is dry. All this is dry now. So I can kind of add my orange pops to my water, and you can see it's just a slightly different tone little bit darker. But I am going to use this same color up here a little bit. So I don't want it to be the only place I use this, because then it'll look weird. It just won't look like it fits. So I'm going to use it a little bit up in here and then call that good. Okay. And then I need to use some of this orange that I had here down in my water, because I haven't used it yet down here. So I'm going to use that and do like right in here with that. And you notice that the water is not a mirror, is not like an actual flip of the top, you know, so it's not like we're seeing the top and it's just been flipped over. It's actually the underside of our image up here. So it's, the angle is different than here. So it's not just this and that's been, you know, rotated and put here. It's actually this at a 45-degree angle. So you're seeing parts of it. You're not seeing the same exact image in your reflection. Does that make sense? So we don't have to be perfect. That makes it a little bit easier for us too, because now we're painting this. We are like, oh my God, I have to get it exactly the same as my sky. No, you don't. In fact, if you look at the image, it's not at all the same as the sky. It's very different on the bottom. So we're just going to get it as close as we can to what we're seeing and call that good.
I still think that when you explain stuff like that, it'd be more understandable with sock puppets. I mean, I'm almost there, but I mean, it would just take it to the next level.
Goodness. Okay, well, that's your job. You got to find me some sock puppets then.
Here, I got one right here on my right foot. Hold on.
Promise.
No holes in it either.
Just talking about my compression socks that I just bought. Could probably use one of those. Might not be able to get my hand back out of it though.
Compression sock ones?
Exactly. All right, just using this orange in different places in the sky, trying to keep it very light and subtle. I think people go in too heavy-handed with clouds, and that's where they go awry. You know, they're very soft. Think air. Think breath. You know, we'll get very, very. I feel like I need to speak in a soft voice when I'm doing this. Okay, clouds. Whisper. We're whispering. Whisper your paint on here. Don't go in with a sledgehammer. We're just lightly dusting our canvas with the cloud colors and letting them build up slowly. Don't try to get it all done in one layer. It's not going to happen. And then that's when you end up with a big, heavy-handed mess that looks way, you know, wrong. So slow, deliberate, just slowly adding more white back in here where I have my brightest area. And then down here in my water, I'm going to get some of that intense yellow and add that. Maybe add a little bit of it up here. Okay. We're almost done with our sky. We're pretty close. I do need to add some darker stuff up here. So I'm going to get a bigger brush because I've got a bigger area to cover here. So I'm going to get the Deerfoot Stippler. It's one of my favorite brushes for doing clouds because it's got a good pouncy area here that you can use. I'm going to use just a slight bit of the magenta. Why not? Give it a little bit of a purpley tone up here. Purpley, is that a word? I think it is.
Hey, if pouncy area is a word, then sure. Everybody needs one of those.
So you can see how much paint I have on here, maybe, if it'll focus on it. Focus, focus, focus. Okay, so not a lot. That's the point. I want to be able to see all these little, you know, notches in my brush, all the little hairs, right? So just dab it on, pounce it out until you can kind of see. You should not have, do not have like paint clumped on here. So that when I pounce on my canvas, stipple, whatever you want to call it, I get nice little texture. And then I'm going to just smush down hard on it, on the outer edges, and kind of blend it out. And a little bit of texture right there, but then I want this area to kind of cover. So I'm just kind of blending it out. Once again, put the color down first where you want it darkest. I'm going to get that white, maybe a little bit of that cobalt teal, and then a little bit of that blue that I was just using. I'm just going to blend these two together a little bit, and just again pounce it out where you want it darkest, or where you want the color to show up the thickest, the brightest. Put that on first. And once I get most of that off, and if it doesn't go off fast enough, you can kind of move to another area and add some of that color somewhere else that you see it. Maybe it's down in the water too. So, wow, I had a lot of paint on my brush. You can see how far that one load of paint is going. Let's go ahead and just keep going down here while I've got it. Okay. Get a little bit of that purple color. And I'm seeing some of it kind of coming in over here too. So now I'm getting, can you see what's happening right there? I'm getting a lot of white peeking through because the color underneath this dark color is so light. So to avoid that, if you want it to be a little bit more saturated in those areas, pick up a little bit of glazing medium and add that, or water, whatever. You just want a little bit more fluidity in your paint, and then it will fill in those gaps. Now, I have to be careful. I don't want to, I'm wiping my brush out because I've got a lot. This is going to go a lot farther. And so now I can go in and see it's going to fill in all those little holes really quickly and easily for me. I'm still getting that translucency, but I'm not getting that white showing through as much. So if you're having a lot of problems with that, or if you're laying down paint and you're seeing a lot of the canvas peeking through in areas, that just go back over it with a watered down version of that color and it'll cover up really nicely. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit of that, maybe a little bit of the white just to soften it off, and I go over the top, just the tip of the brush, and I'm just gonna kind of drag it across. Now, if you're having trouble controlling it, switch to another brush. This is where I would probably, let's go ahead and grab a smaller, like, or we could go back to this brush if we wanted to, but 1/4 inch blender or something like that. And I can go up in here. I'm going to get some of that magenta because I'm seeing a lot of kind of pink in this. So getting that magenta, kind of creating a lavender, blue, it's really kind of more of a violet. Maybe some zinc white. This is that dark area that's kind of streaking across right there. Just kind of doing this in the direction that I'm seeing those clouds coming in, and just trying to kind of blend it all out. Now, if I went back in right now, this paint right here that I did, a couple minutes ago, is still pretty fresh, but it's starting to dry. So if I was to go in, and I'm noticing some of this lavender in here, and so I'm like, oh, I want to go in here and paint in here. But if I did that, I'll show you what happens right here. It's going to, yeah, right here, you can see what happened. See how it lifted off that section right there? it that paint was trying to dry, and I disturbed it, and it's doing it over here too, and it lifted off. Instead of laying down more paint, it just lifted off everything that was there, back down to the white. So just avoid doing that if you can. I mean, it's fine right here. I'm gonna go back over. I still see some oranges and things, so I knew I was gonna go back over that area, but I wanted to use that as an example of what not to do.
I do that all the time.
You do that all the time. What not to do?
Yeah, sometimes I think that's my life. An example of what not to do.
What not to do. Your life. That's
I'm the example.
an example of what not to do. Yeah.
See, Mark.
I'm using some zinc white here, just mixing that in with my color here. And another thing is these paints are not fully dry yet. They're not totally cured for 24 hours or so. So if you scrub hard enough, you'll scrub them off the canvas too, especially canvas panel where there's kind of a board underneath. You're not getting full absorption into the fibers of the canvas. Like a stretched canvas, you have like, actual cotton cloth. This is cotton cloth on it, but it doesn't have, it has, with that board, it kind of, I don't know, stops the absorption a little bit. I just find that these tend to scrub off more than like a regular canvas would. It's probably just because it's hard underneath, and so you're really able to like scrub. With the canvas, there's more flexing happening, and you're not as liable to scrub off what you've just painted if you press too hard. So, okay, so adding some purples, and let's go ahead and use this light. I'm adding more white to this purple as I get up here because it's not as dark. And just go ahead and kind of add some of this. Now you notice that the lightest part is towards our light here. So these clouds are in the areas where the sun is not hitting them. And then there'll be clouds areas where they're thinner, or the light is peeking through and you're seeing more of the oranges and the yellows in those areas. So these are going to be kind of above the lighter colors here in this area. Okay. Let's do a little bit more of the darker blue over here on this side. Maybe not that dark, but we'll start there. And then we'll add some white to that. You can blend right onto the canvas. That's what I'm doing here. I'm just blending a lighter blue onto the canvas, putting that blue down. It was already there, so I might as well just leave it. But if you add white to it right away, I can kind of adjust it and blend those out. Okay. A little bit more of the darker blue up here. Okay, looks good. Let's go ahead and go in this area right here. Right here, I'm seeing a nice sort of cerulean blue that fades out to the lighter color. I'll put a little bit brighter pop of blue there. Pick up some of my lighter color, lighter blue. And again, just kind of blend it in and mix it straight onto the canvas. Now in this case, I am going kind of thick with my paint. Thickish, not worried about, oops, I'm off camera, totally.
Sorry, I was trying to adjust the camera there and then lost you.
I just added the blue down here and then added the light blue on top.
A dramatic reenactment.
Yep. Okay. You have one job. I'm saying.
I have multiple jobs. You have one job. Well, two. Stay on camera and paint.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I thought you were the camera guy.
Sometimes. It's like, oh, well, she's going to be paint down there. I'm going to try to get the side cam going. Oh, wait a minute. She's off the main camera. Oh, who cares? Not important.
Yeah. All right. Getting some of the darker blue here. And this is really dark down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go in with the really dark. Okay. And I'm doing this side to side on purpose. I want to go in with vertical lines in here because this water is going to, if any, is going to have these kind of ripples going side to side. This is very still water. It's not got a lot of, it's not like surf where you're seeing waves or anything like that. This is all very still and kind of flat. So we're going side to side with our brush strokes, keeping them flat and keeping the angle horizontal. No weird up and down motions or anything. It's not blending in right here, but that's okay. I'm gonna blend this out later, so I'm not worried about that. I'm just making sure that I get kind of a nice blend on this part that is gonna show the bottom of our heart. And then there's kind of this darker, let's get this purple if I got any. I don't think I do. Get some of that magenta and that blue, and sort of in that same area there. If we want to measure it, we can measure it just to see. Remember, we're measuring from the bottom of the water to that. So right about there where I had it is where we're seeing that, and then it's gonna come down here and widen it out. Doesn't have to be perfect, but getting it close is good. It'll give it that illusion of that reflection that we want. Okay, pretty good. Let's go ahead and get some of the magenta and Prussian blue, and I'm pretty happy with what's going on here, but I want to go ahead and tape off my horizon line so that I can do some stuff up there. Tape. What did I do with you? Tape. There you are. Okay. This is just painter's tape or delicate surface tape. So this is actually for paper. Hopefully it'll work for this. I don't know. Actually, I might want to get my regular painter's tape, but I don't see it. My blue tape is missing from my drawer where it normally is. It's over there. Yep, thank you. I'm not sure why it got over there.
Was that me?
No, I don't know why. I'm sure I used it for something. Okay. Let's just... This works well on canvas. So I'm going to use this and go above where I want my tape just so I know kind of where I want my line to be. And I'm going to go ahead and I can probably, no, I'm just going to mark it with the pencil. That'll be easier. I'm just going to mark it across with the pencil. And then I can see where I want my
we could do like that movie
tape to go up. Oops, I want it above it.
Ghost. You know, I could reach around.
No,
you
it's okay. No. That would be not helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, no, that's okay. Don't.
No.
Don't. You stay on your
Nope,
side.
Definitely not.
Okay, got it. Understood.
All right, I'm gonna spray my canvas because I've got more paint out here and it's starting to dry on me. And I'm going to put out some more white too because my white. Now this is taking a while. This is going to take 90% of the painting. Is the sky, the stuff that we're covering up, the background.
This is going to cover up.
Yeah. I'm not putting a lot of detail into this part on the sides where I know it's going to be covered by the trees because you're only going to see tiny, tiny bits of it peeking through. But this part in the middle, you know, we want to get right. All right, so I think I'm going to use this brush again. And there is a kind of a line of light color that you're seeing kind of across. I'm going to get some yellow here. And my white, maybe a little bit of pink. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of go across and make sure I have a nice bright line right there. And just going to blend it down just a little bit into my water. Okay, then below that, there is a reflection of my trees. So what's happening is water is moving through here and it's disrupting the reflection. And then we've got our reflection showing up just below it. So I'm going to kind of go across with this kind of a purpley pink color and try to get it straight-ish. And blend out the bottom edge. So the top edge should be kind of straight. Bottom edge will be a little bit more fuzzy. And go across and try to keep it straight. I got a little thick right there in the middle. And then I'm going to get my darker color, my magenta and my burnt, or my phthalo blue, and I'm just going to pull down a little, just dabbing right up to that line and pulling down a little bit into my water. Might even just kind of tap it. Yeah, that looks better. I don't want it so obvious. I want it a little bit softer. So just kind of tapping and softening it off. And there's just a little bit of that kind of bottom edge of it is sort of pulled down. I don't think this brush is quite the right one for this. Get a little bit of magenta here. A little bit of my orange maybe. Kind of get a reddish tone. A little bit of my white. And a little bit of a glaze. I don't want it too thick. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of go over all of that with that magenta and soften it off and kind of go side to side with it. So it's just kind of softening it up, blending it out a little bit. Okay. Oh, I should have done my, let me do this. Right in there where I got a little thick with that white. I'm going to go back in right here and just clean that up. Right there. Okay. And then I'm going to use this white, my yellow, and I've got this 4 round now. I'm just going to use it to kind of go side to side and put in my little smaller lines in my water. Keep these side to side. If If you get any that kind of tip off in one direction or the other, you can kind of wipe them off, keep them small. They'll get bigger as they come down closer to us, so, but in the distance, they're going to be really small. You're not going to even really tell that they're lines. Okay. And maybe we can put some ripples in the water, whatever you want to do. Getting a little bit of that orangey color, making sure. Now, in order the orange to go over this blue without looking brown, you're going to have to, you don't want it too transparent, because if it's transparent, you'll be able to see that brown through it. So, whoops. Boy, that was dry already, so don't get any of that. Get that orange and Indian yellow, and then pick up some of this orange here that we had, and use that. Okay. Again, trying to keep these side to side. Looks good. Let's go ahead and put on, I've got to let that dry. So let's go ahead and do our, finish up our clouds up here. So I'm getting a little bit bigger. This is the 3/8 inch Willows blender, and I just want to finish up these brighter clouds here. So I'm going to get this. This has got Indian yellow, magenta, and the Pyrrole orange. So all three of those colors here. Kind of a little bit more saturated reddish color, and I'm just going to use it kind of to transition between that purple and the orange here. And dab off in the sky. It has all these kind of like little stipply kind of clouds up there. I'm going to get the blue and do the same. A stipple. We could use the Deerfoot Stippler for this too, but this kind of will do me like keep it in line a little bit easier. It's a little bit more easy to control. These clouds are very kind of small in this area, so I'm doing it side to side, but keeping that flat edge parallel to the horizon so that I'm getting kind of some. And anywhere like here where I see a really obvious shift between the dark and the light, I'm going to use this to kind of go over and just kind of help blend out those areas. This blue has lots of white in it, so it's going to be opaque. It'll go over these areas, but we're just kind of putting it down in a stipply motion so it looks like cloud texture, and it'll be easy to cover up any boo-boos or any areas that don't look like they've transitioned well one into another. And really those areas are going to be where you've got the dark blue and that orange meeting usually, or the dark blue and the yellow or whatever meeting. Those areas will usually need some of this. And then I can use this white, really bright white, and just go back in and do it in some of these areas where I want the clouds to kind of look like they're lined with light. Just at the bottom here. They're getting lit by the sun. That's right in this area. See, that wasn't too hard. You just kind of have to do it in order. But I swear you can do this. I know you can. It seems very daunting, but anywhere that you have weird stuff going on now. Now is the time. You can use your white, use this brush, and you'll be surprised at how quickly it kind of starts to look better just by stippling over some of those transition areas between the light and the dark colors. And you can get some softer areas going on, and anywhere where I need to kind of blend it out, I can kind of pull this brush side to side. Got some areas here that just need kind of some softening, blending out. Side to side motion. This is the sky. So I've got some of these kind of lighter blue clouds and the orange or the yellow meeting. So I'm going to kind of go back with my light yellow. That was that first color that I mixed. And just kind of go side to side with it. And make sure I've got looking good. Let's go ahead and use this color in my water down here. My water definitely needs some softening of the colors and things. So and again, it's okay that my water looks a little darker than my sky. It definitely looks darker in a photograph too. And it'll look darker in person just because you've got the colors in the water affecting the reflection. Depending on how murky your water is, the more different, it'll look. Okay, so here I need to kind of stipple, and I've got this blue here, and I want to add some purple to it, so I'm going to get my magenta. Remember, that's that color there. I didn't add it to my water, so I'm going to add it to this cloud right here in my water, and just kind of pull it side to side. You'll see a little bit of the stippling, but you're not going to see as much details either in your water. So less detail, a little bit darker, and side-to-side motion with it. Blur out your details. They're not going to be as clear as in your sky. You're just going to have kind of the essence of it, but you're going to really mostly see these kind of side-to-side, a little bit softened off blended look. So anywhere where you see anything that looks a little too harsh, just come back in with a little bit lighter color. We can use our Zinc White in the water. Zinc White is great in water. It's wonderful for reflections. I'm going to use that all through here where I want it a little bit lighter. It's going to really soften off the water. All right, I am liking that pretty well. I'm going to put in some more of this orange in here. A little bit more purple in some places. Again, just kind of drawing it side to side here. I'm seeing some of it coming down in here a little bit. I haven't got and the color is much more intense in my sky than I'm seeing in my picture. So what I want to do, I don't want to have to repaint this whole thing. Well, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to get a little bit more of this more intense Indian Yellow Hue, a little bit a little bit of the magenta too. I'm seeing a little bit of this more intense color, like right through here, underneath my dark cloud. So I'm going to do that first. See if that helps. And kind of just add it in some of this area here too. I don't want to do too much too soon though, because I don't want it to turn the whole sky orange on me. But then I can glaze too, so I can use the transparent nature of the paint to just kind of tint the sky, just like a regular sky will do. You know, when you've got a little bit of yellow in your sky or something, tints your clouds. So we can mimic that with glaze. And glaze is just a transparent layer of paint. That's all it is, nothing fancy. I get so many questions about what is glaze, and I'm thinking, have you had a donut? Because that's what it is. It is just that little bit of thin layer of paint on, in this case, paint, not on your donut, but you get the idea. I'm going to get magenta and a little bit of the zinc white. I'm going to go in and do some pinks. Why not? You can put this whatever colors you want in your sky. So you don't have to stick to what we have here. You can add other colors if you want. So I've already kind of intensified the colors there. That's helping a lot. And then I'm seeing some ripples in my water that I don't have in here. So I'm going to get this brush again. This is that. Get this out of the water. I don't want any of these brushes sitting in my water. All right, so I'm going to get my pink and my white. And I'm going to hold my brush up and tap it. It's going down a little too dark. So get a little bit more of the white. There we go. Also look at where you're seeing the sun, you know. So there and there, make sure that you're getting them kind of lined up in the same place. That'll be important. Okay. And then I'm going to get some of this yellow and add some Indian yellow to it. And just go over some of these areas where the darker paint is and just add some ripple looking things. So keep them horizontal and just kind of going side to side. Kind of thinner lines of paint here. Okay. Kind of having to load up my paint a little bit heavier just so that I can get these lines in here. Zinc white, a little bit of titanium white, and I'm just going to kind of carefully dry brush some ripples in my water. I'm doing them over there because you're not going to see those. All right, that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. in my sky here. And just anywhere that I see that I need a little bit more light, but I think this helped a lot doing that brighter orange. But I think I will go ahead and kind of glaze it. For that, I'm going to use a large brush. I'm just going to get a large flat brush. I could use this one again, but it's a little too big. And I think I'm going to use my, well, let me think. Okay, I want to look at it, and do I need any color anywhere? I feel like this horizon line is a little bit light, like if you see in the picture, it's a little bit darker. So I think I'm going to get a little bit of magenta and orange, and maybe a slight bit of, well, actually, I'm just going to do that. I've kind of wiped most of it off and got some glaze here. I'm just going to go across my mountains area and just add a little hint of orange down there at the horizon, and then I can add it in my water too because I'm seeing it there. And then I can add it anywhere else in my sky that I feel like I need a little punch of color. So maybe up here there's a little bit more red, or over here. And then make sure that I add it in the same places in my painting down here. Okay, good. And then I'm gonna, up in the sky, I'm gonna go a little bit darker. I just feel like these corners need to be almost black. So I'm gonna get my Prussian blue and the last little bit of my glaze here. And this is where I'll probably want a paper towel that's kind of damp. And also to make sure that anything else here is dry, but I'm not going to go down into that other area. So I'm just going to do my corners here. And just darken those up. And the glaze helps keep this from, it makes it a little bit easier to blend in, but I'm just going to use my damp paper towel and kind of just buff it in. Okay, that's good. And then again down here too. Darken up anything that I do. And just go side to side with it down here so that it just blends in to what we've got. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. All right, it's a little bit blotchy up here, but that whole corner is black, so I'm not going to worry about it. I think we're close enough. All right, so we'll let that dry. While that's drying, I need to do my mountains on here, and I'm gonna dry this. Actually, let me let you take that and just dry it really well. It'll just be easier to have it dry because I'm gonna tape it off again and do my mountains and get a nice crisp dark line at the bottom of my mountains where it meets the water. We already did the taped off the mountains at the bottom, but that'll help. Okay, so I'm going to talk about sponges real quick. Sponges, these are natural sea sponges. They're fairly cheap. I think I got this one maybe for $5 or $6. What you want to do is put it in water. I've let the paint dry on here too long and it's gotten crispy on the edges. Try not to do that. If you keep it, if you use it, make sure you wash it right away after you use it, because these crispy edges make it a little bit harder to get soft looks. But there'll be kind of a bigger weave side usually. This is not usually the side that I use unless I'm using like doing bigger clouds or things like that, because you kind of get weird patterns out of it. You want to look for one that has kind of this soft, like little, I don't know if you can see that, but very small little fuzzy bits there. Well, it actually kind of helps that they're painted because you can see them. So what I'll be doing is loading this up and just kind of smushing it together, and I can kind of create shapes just so if I need a line, I can kind of smush it together like this. So they're great. If you haven't used one of these for foliage, they're one of my favorite things, especially if I have a large area of foliage like this one. This one where, you know, we've got a large area all the way around. One thing, you won't get very small leaves, so we won't be doing this all the way up to the middle part where we're wanting our like tighter foliage to be, and I'll use a brush for that area, but this will cover the whole heart area around the outside edges just super fast. Okay, very good. All right, I'm pretty happy with that for the most part. I don't want to go too crazy with this. And you can simplify this however you want. You could even leave the clouds out and just do kind of a really pretty wash in the sky in here, and maybe just a couple little clouds. Don't feel like you have to, you know, get as fancy with this as I did in mine. I'm going to use the Prussian blue and some magenta and do like a dark, dark purple. I'm not adding any white to it. I'm going to find my horizon line and tape that off. So it should be there from that white that we did before. White line. There we go. Just press it down really nice and hard right along that edge. And then I'm going to go across, and I don't want to do two things. I don't want to add super watery paint because that'll get underneath the tape no matter how good your tape is. And I don't want to pull my brush down so I'm forcing paint underneath my tape either, because that will also can force paint underneath. I've done all of those things. I've done all the wrong things I'm just here to help you. Help you not mess up your painting. All right. Getting some black here. I'm going to add a little bit of black to this too, just to dull it out just a little bit, and just whatever shape you want to make your mountains. So I don't know where this exactly was taken. This looks like we've got a lake here in our town, so this looks probably like Lake Darnell here. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't ask Lori where she took this. But it's very pretty.
We'll say it's Lake Darnell.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. Don't know. And just kind of creating some little low hills all the way across. Put trees in there, whatever you want to do. All right, and then I'm going to tear that off, and there we go. Now we have our whole thing, and I'm going to put out a little bit more glaze. I'm going to use this. Actually, I'm going to use a fan brush. I keep pulling out new things. I'm going to use a fan brush and use the same color with my glaze. The reason I'm using a fan brush is so I can lay this flat right here, and I'm just going to try to find kind of some of that dark area and just sort of pull down. A few little streaks. And I can kind of use my finger to sort of smudge them out a little bit so they're not so... Okay, good enough. So now we have a dry canvas. Everything is set. I'm gonna clean off my palette. I think I'm pretty much done with all these colors. I'm gonna try to save the yellow and the orange here that I mixed, but everything else can go. Just gonna try to get all around all these. I've got a glass palette, so this scrapes off with just a regular glass scraper, just like you'd find in the hardware store. When you're painting glass, you know, windows or whatever, you scrape off the paint. Which is harder to get off than you think. I've done this before. I would much rather tape. So,
So got a quick question while you're doing that.
Okay.
Have you ever used silicone brushes before?
I don't know what they mean. Silicone brushes. Are they just
like the hairs are silicone?
No, have not.
Okay.
I don't think they would hold paint very well. Like, I mean, they're probably good for texture type of work, but I can't imagine that they would, because they won't absorb any water, so you wouldn't have great paint absorption into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Especially with a water medium like this. Maybe with oils they'd be okay. I don't know, though. I've never tried them, so I'm just saying my first, thought would be.
I can go grab the baster.
The baster, we can try it.
And try it real
I'm sure
quick.
it would be some cool technique, like
Slop
some
it
cool
on.
texture. There's probably somebody on TikTok did it with the baster. It's not a bad idea. I should try a painting with a baster, silicone baster.
Let's do it.
See what happens. But it'd be pretty floppy too. You'd have to have the right texture on it. All right, I'm gonna get. Before I do anything else, I'm gonna get my white with my liner or my round, and I'm just gonna kind of come up here and just sort of hit up some of these cloud bits just with some really bright white along the edges, and just add little bits. Not all the clouds are gonna have this. Just some of the few special ones. I'm gonna add this really pretty white lining of highlights on the clouds. Okay.
So it looks like they just might be solid,
What might be solid?
the brushes. So like they're shaped like a brush, but like they're more.
Oh, it's like a spatula.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I have
kinda.
used those. Well, I have those. The blades. These.
Like
What
the,
you're talking about? Yeah, I have used these. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. When did I use them? What painting did I use? I'm trying to remember. I have the smaller ones too. I've used the smaller ones quite a bit in, like this one was used in a seascape where I did palette knife seascape. I even got a regular spatula out just to see how it compared.
Okay.
Those are the catalyst blades. So yeah, those are great. They're great to have.
Nice.
Okay, I'm going to get some
So
yellow
the
here, and I'm
answer
going
is
to kind
yes.
of soften off the edges of some of these white ones that look a little bit pasted on. Just. What were you saying?
It says so. The answer is yes.
Yes, I have used them. I don't remember what paintings I've used them in. I think that I want to say maybe the one where I did the tree in the field by itself, where I did texture. I think maybe. I don't know.
That's okay.
Okay, but yes, those are great. They're very. Sorry, I thought you were talking about a brush.
Well, that's what I thought too, but then somebody said something about a shaper, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
Then I Googled it, so.
Yeah, they work like kind of like a palette knife, you know.
Yeah. So my Google news feed for the next few weeks is going to be
gonna be messed
interesting
up 'cause you're
between computer parts and silicone brushes.
I'm putting bright white right there,
What is
nice and thick, and then
Oh, I like it.
where I want my sun
I
to
see
be,
the effect that you're doing here. Yeah.
and then my lighter yellow around it, just to kind of blend it out a little bit. But yeah, you can see the crystal light, or the really special effects in my clouds here. These ones are even closer to it. They're going to be bright white right there, right along the edge. Okay, really pretty. And you can do as much or as little as you want of this, so, and there's a lot of it in the picture that I'm seeing, so could probably go and do the whole painting a little bit more with this. Getting some more of that brighter yellow. There's like a reflection in the cloud of that sun right there, kind of just below it, and then in the water too. All right, I think. Are we ready for?
Are we ready?
Are we ready? What time is it? Oh, 7:30. Okay, yes. We have spent a long time on this sky. There's a lot of clouds though, and it was a lot.
Bust a move. Oh yeah, no, it's gonna really. I like the
Didn't get turned out
the
good.
detail that you just added with the white there too, because it's definitely gives it
Makes it
that
like
3D.
it's shining.
Yeah.
Through. There's even some like streaks that we could do. As long as this is dry, I'll use some glaze, and a zinc white is better for it, just so you can be a little bit more. But I might do some like streaks. You always want to keep in mind where your sun is, and your line should be straight towards the sun. So we'll streak some. That's picking up some of that, but that's all right. Okay, there we go. Pretty, pretty. I don't know where my white chalk went to. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to just mark out a, hold on. Sorry, I just saw that I kind of lifted off that white right there. My heart shape. So I'm going to do like this. It comes over, it comes down to about right here. And then it comes up. It's not a real like straight line, which I love about it. It's very natural looking, so you're like, oh, that's a heart. If you don't want to do the heart, just do regular foliage through here. You don't have to, you can just put some foliage around it and call it good. Don't have to do the heart shape, but I just thought it was really cool. All right, so just having a little line helps you kind of get the shape right. And we'll use our big old sponge here. So wet it down first, and then rinse it out, or wring it out, I should say, in your water until no water comes out of it. Because if you have a bunch of water in it, and then you squeeze it on your canvas, it's going to run all over. So make sure that I need that. That's my paint. I'm going to.
It's in the way of side cam. So.
Oh, okay, well.
His head was in the way.
All right. Mark just took my paint away from me. He's like,
was
okay,
like,
I'm going to take this out of the way.
She doesn't need
And
this
I'm
anymore.
like, wait a minute, where are you going with that? That's what I'm using. I had it sitting right there for a reason.
I was trying to gaslight you, but you caught me.
Yeah.
Have you seen my paint? No. Don't know what happened to it.
Where it went. Okay. So I've got a big old thing of paint. Now this is fluid, so if you're not using the fluid acrylics, just add a little bit of water to your, just a little bit, just to make it a little bit more fluid. It'll just go on easier. Dab it on, not too much. You still, just like that other brush I was telling you, you should see the little bristly bits. Oh, that's nice. This actually this is actually doing a pretty good job. So I'm going to kind of carefully, slowly, I'm going to start in my darkest areas and move carefully towards my lighter areas and leave just a little bit of the blue showing through here and there. See, this line looked really dark until we get this on here, and now it's going to look a little bit more normal. Like that horizon line looked a little bit dark to me, but now it's going to look a little bit better. Pretty. Okay, let's just go ahead and kind of do some. I need to leave some room here. There's some space up here. Oops. Okay, I'll keep it down here. Can you zoom out a little bit more for me? Thank you. Right, so again, start up here. The temptation is to go right along that heart and do that whole thing and then fill in the rest, but don't do that because then you'll end up with an outline of weirdness that you're gonna have to try to blend in, and it will be very difficult. So work up into the outline, don't start there. Okay. Oh, it's cute. It's cute. It's working. Think about where your branches are coming down. This one's like a branch is coming this way. Splitting off into a couple little doohickeys, and I'm not going to worry about getting it perfect right now because I'm going to come back in with the brush. So I just want to kind of get an idea of where this tree is, and then we'll come back in. Yeah, I was looking for a Valentine's Day. I've done, I usually do at least one. I like doing little heart stuff. Last year we did a tree with a heart in it that I had taken a photograph of that was actually, a real heart that we found or a real tree that had a heart shape cut into it.
Up in Kansas City.
Kansas City. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the year before that, I think maybe a couple years ago, we did a swan.
Yeah, I painted.
Mark painted with me, so
I knocked it out of the park.
His and hers.
Swans. I stopped painting because I didn't want to disappoint everybody and have them just think like they could never live up to my awesomeness.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there now. Once I get this on, now look at how my sky. It looks a little bit light compared to my sky, so I think I'm probably going to end up glazing a little bit more. But I'll have to let my foliage dry. Okay, so here's where the foliage comes in. Let's go ahead and put a few lines in. I'm going to get my liner brush, and I'm going to wet down this paint even more. You want very fluid ink, like your paint should really be ink consistency when you're using a liner brush. Make sure that I get any water that's dripped on here off, and then I'm gonna do some lines through here. Just a few are showing up here and there, so just kind of putting in some of these lines. If you have your paint fluid enough, you just barely touch it down and you're going to get these nice thin lines. If you have to press down at all to get your line to come off, your paint is too thick. So make sure that you take the time to thin out your paint, and then I'm just barely touching the tip down here to get some lines. Most of these aren't even going to show, but we know they're there. Makes us feel better. Okay, our tree now has branches. All right, I'm gonna use the 1/2 inch. We'll see if this, I like to use the biggest brush that I need, that I can. This is gonna dry out in here. Yeah, go ahead and wash it out for me. Sorry. Use the biggest brush that. Don't go off camera. Okay, I think I'm good. So I want to come down a little bit farther here. If these leaves are not small enough, then I'll go to a smaller brush. But by using this brush, then I don't have to use this. I don't have to reload as often. So this will give me more time to paint without having to reload. Just have to reload my brush. So I'm gonna kind of fill in some of these areas kind of solid in here. So I'm kind of tapping down nice and hard. And then right along the edges, I'm just, the tip of this brush will create these nice little leafy shapes if I just tap. Barely tap, it'll kind of creates these little dots and leafy shapes. Right. Don't press down very hard. This brush is pretty big, so it'll make some big leaves if you press down hard on it. So just keep your brush strokes light. Tappa tappa, tappy tappa tap. Very light little brush strokes. Okay, so that's with that brush. Now let's try it with a round brush and see if we like the leaf shapes better with the round brush. So here's that 4 round that we were using before. Again, now with the round brush, I need my paint a little bit more fluid. It's like the liner brush. Kind of doesn't want to come off the brush unless you thin it out. It's just the way they work. Okay, so let's do some of these in here. Tappy tap. I kind of think I'm, well, obviously getting smaller leaf shapes. And I can kind of control the tilt or the shape of them by kind of tipping my brush one side or another. So if I want them to kind of come upward, I tip it so the point, wherever the point is tipping or pointing, the point is pointing, is going to be the tip of your leaf. So just kind of keep that in mind. That looks pretty good. Let's bring this up in just a little bit more right here.
So which brush is this?
This is the 4 round. Okay. And just depending on how we want to shape out our heart, just kind of stop every now and then, look at it from a distance. Don't get too much in, like you can really get into it and be looking right here and then miss the whole thing, So kind of every now and then stop and look at it in a distance and get a feel for how it's looking overall. I want to go a little bit darker in here, even though I want to leave some light in through here. I do want it a little bit darker so I get that solid shape a little bit. And then we can loosen up on it and leave a little bit more of this open here and there. Look at how cute. I love it. It's so pretty. So excited. Thank you to Lori for letting me use her photo. This was really cool. What a fun find. I'm sure she was delighted when she found this. I don't know. I didn't talk to her. We just kind of corresponded on Facebook Messenger. So.
Well, it's, beyond a coincidence because, you've started that series this year of, having, you did that one painting already with a flower, around the edges with something in the background.
Right.
So this was just like a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure.
Like this fits in perfectly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, we'll be doing some more. That was the bonus video last month. Which is, make sure I don't have any paint on my hands, but that's this one that he's talking about where we're doing flower frames with the landscape in the middle. So we'll be continuing this series, not this month, but next month. This month, what are we painting this month?
Something bonusy. I'll check. Oops. Go to my Gmail.
Thank you. I don't even know. I show up and I paint it. That's it. No. Oh. All right. Pretty happy with what's going on here. Just making sure having these like solid bits here and there just really like settles it, if it's like airy everywhere, it just doesn't feel right. Your brain kind of fights it. So just want these like solid areas where the light is not penetrating at all, and then make peppered through just these really nice little areas where the background is showing. I want it almost solid black though, all down through here. So I'm kind of going back in and really filling in these areas with a lot of black.
What did I do with that?
If I think for a second, I'll be able to remember. Just brain is in right brain mode right now. I'm not thinking. Okay.
Okay, bonus video is going to be on Saturday the 17th, and it is the Book with Roses.
That's right. I'm going to take a better photo because I need to get some roses. I have the books. I need to get some roses and try to get a better photo for it. Yeah, that's right. So that'll be a fun one. All right, I like it. It feels like a heart. It's not too like perfectly heart shaped, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel forced. It feels kind of a little bit natural. I like it. So I think I'm going to stop there. And let me see. I don't know. This is dangerous because I really need to. Yeah, go ahead and dry it for me. One more time. I'm sorry. Do you want me to use the hairdryer?
No,
okay.
I got it.
It just needs the black to be fully blacked out, or dry. I mean, so I can glaze. And the nice thing is I can glaze over black, and I won't have to worry about, if it was like a lighter color, I would worry about it. But glazing over black won't be a big deal at all. But I think I want it just a little bit more of that golden tone. I'm seeing it just a little bit more saturated. So I think I'm going to use the Indian Yellow and my Pyrrole Orange and maybe just a tiny touch of Magenta to get kind of a really nice, bright orangey gold. And I'm going to use that in my sky just to beef up, and I may even use some of the blue again too. I don't know. It just seems a little bit light, So I'm just going to darken it up just a little bit. I'll probably need a little bit darker in some of the tones in the blues too. So I might do my blues a little bit darker around the edges as well. So, but if you don't have glazing medium, you can use matte medium. It's also translucent and it has an acrylic extender. The acrylic extender is the main thing that you need to look for when you're looking for a glazing medium or a matte medium or any kind of medium that you're using. That you want a fluid medium, so something that is not going to thicken up your paint too much. The glaze, you want it to go on transparent. It'll look kind of whitish. It looks white here, you know, on the palette right here, but it dries completely clear. So no worries about that. It's not gonna leave a... The one thing with the matte medium, and the reason I don't use matte medium that often, if I were to use the matte medium over my black, it would show up, because matte medium has mattifying little particles in it that are actually like, I want to say they're titanium white particles. They're intended to make the paint more block the light, and you block the light with opaque paint. You know, so you're going to be able to see it. It's not going to be a completely clear completely clear layer. Like this glazing liquid is completely transparent. It's not going to affect it at all. So a lot of people ask me, you know, about varnishes too. You know, should I use a varnish that is matte? I don't, you know, like the sheen. And I'm just like, well, I mean, you can, but it will show. You will see it. It will leave a cloudiness. It's slight. It may not bother you. A lot of people use matte mediums and love it. That's fine. But I don't particularly like them just because of that. I don't like the cloudiness that they leave in the paint. So I'm using this to just darken up. And this is just because I just didn't do it dark enough. That's all. You know, it looks fine when you're doing it, but then once you get everything else on here, I'm realizing that I didn't quite go dark enough in my water. So I'm using the magenta, and I'm even going to go in the sky here, I think. And now, if you want to, you can also... Now, if you use an opaque paint, you will get cloudiness on your black. So be careful of that. These three are transparent, I believe. The Pyrrole orange maybe, yeah, it's kind of 50-50. So it's like iffy, but the Quinacridone Magenta is very transparent. It's like one of the most transparent colors that you can get. And then the Indian Yellow Hue is also transparent. Oops, it doesn't have its thing, but you can see with the open box here, it'll be a black box right there if it's opaque. So the open box means transparent. Let me see if I can find one with a box. No, none of these have the box. Oh, here's a box, right? There's your titanium white. Okay, so using transparent colors for glazes is really important. Prussian blue, let me see how transparent Prussian blue is. It is a little bit on the opaque side because it's got black in it, but because I'm using it over the black, I think it'll be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use it as well. And I think I might use a little bit of the magenta with it, so I'll make kind of a purpley tone. And then add my glaze. And we're just going to darken up this corner over here. And just bring this down into my sky a little bit. And I'm trying to kind of just follow the cloud shapes so I don't have to worry about blending these out. And I'm just going to use this over the top of my colors and tap. I'm using this large brush, but I can kind of use its edge to tap through here and control where this paint is going. Use my finger. I definitely don't want to have to go back in here with my white though, because that will be a problem. So I'm hoping that this will be enough. Yeah, it's darkening it up. It's just giving a little bit more saturation. And okay. I'm using the edge of the brush just to kind of tap in these horizontal lines to get my choppy water look. Okay. I don't know if I like that better, but I'm gonna kind of fix the water just a little bit. Get a little bit of magenta, a little bit of that Indian yellow hue, and a little bit of white. And I'm just gonna go back over this dark area right here. Fitzy's sighing at me, so that means it's the 2-hour mark.
You got the sigh.
I got the sigh. My dog has an internal clock. He knows when it's 2 hours and he starts to sigh. It's really funny. It's almost, yeah, on the dot. Look at that. He's like, wrap it up. Wrap it up, Mom. It's been long enough. We need to cuddle now. It's couch time. Or walk time. Or not painting time. Oh, Mark is doing it now too. Okay, got it.
I want some cuddle time. I don't know if that's how I asked for it. Sorry.
Yeah, explains a lot, huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it.
I love that. That's funny. Okay. I think I'm just using some magenta here. And I'm seeing some cloudiness over here because I had white in my brush here. So I am going to go back over my leaves just in this one area right here. It's okay if there's a little bit of cloudiness because some of these might, you know, they could be affected by the might be some mist or something coming off the water, who knows. So it's okay if there's a little bit of it, but you know, if it's really obvious, make sure you kind of touch up any areas where you're seeing some too much cloudiness, and I'm going to call that good. I think I could have even probably gone with another layer of glaze over here, but we're just trying to go slow on the layers. So, you know, sometimes you need more layers than you think. I probably went a little bit conservative with my color, going not quite dark enough in the first couple layers, but All right, there we go. Nice and soft, pretty sky. I like it. I think I might go a little bit. I can go a little bit of the dark blue with my Prussian blue and my black with my Deerfoot Stippler and go over some of these areas. Just having another tone in here. A little bit of blue cast, especially up in the sky area, I think would look good. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. We're gonna be back next Tuesday with another tutorial for you, as always. Really appreciate you giving it a thumbs up and liking it and sharing it. And the thumbs up makes a difference. It really does. So even, you know, if you're watching this all the way through to the end, please give it a thumbs up, because that tells YouTube that you like our videos and that you want to see more. Hopefully you do. But it also helps YouTube recommend us on other people's channels that have the same kind of content. So we'll get better suggested placement and things like that. So it's really good for us when you even, you know, one little thumbs up makes a big difference. They add up. So please do that if you enjoyed the video. And like I said, subscribe, come back. I think the likes are actually more important than subscribe, because that has more impact anymore. Subscribes almost don't matter anymore. Not that I don't want you to do that. I'm just saying that YouTube doesn't always suggest based on what you subscribe to. If you've subscribed to somebody and thought, do they even make videos anymore? Go look them up. I bet they are. I bet YouTube just decided you didn't need to see their videos anymore. They do that to people all the time, especially the content creators that have been around since the beginning. It seems like we get short-shafted sometimes. Now I'm on a rant here, but it's true. It happens to a lot of content creators that have been around for a long time. The YouTube algorithm favors new content, new channels, I should say, and so it will. If you haven't had your video, like if you take a break or you have a lull or something like that, and you haven't watched somebody in 2 or 3 weeks, they'll drop off your feed. So even if they're still creating content, and even if you're subscribed to them, you may not see their new content unless you look them up. So if you have a favorite YouTube channel and you haven't seen them in your feed for a while, look them up. I bet they're out there. All right, that's it. I'm done. Super chat.
Super chat.
Excellent.
All right.
All right, I'm going to sign this with a light blue while you're doing that.
Our first super chat was from our friend Laura. Says, love you guys as always. Aww. And what a delight to receive and share in your beautiful talent and art expertise.
Oh, thank you, Laura. Wow, what a sweet comment.
Thank you.
That's very generous, too. Awesome. Thank you.
And then we have one from Linnea.
Oh, thank you, Linnea.
So there was no special comment, but so it described what the character was doing. And it was because she had to leave early.
Oh,
so that's why it was
wow,
a rage
thank
quit.
you.
She had to go early. So thank you very much.
Super sweet. Both of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to use a light blue here. I was going to use a darker blue, but I don't think it'll show up. So I like using these Posca paint pens. I use the 0.7 millimeter nibs because they are small enough, and then I usually do like about a finger width up from the corners, because then if you frame it, which with the panel you would need to, then you won't hide your signature with the frame. Okay, there we go. Fun, fun, fun. All right. And you could even do your leaves with a paint pen too, you know, if you wanted to. They work really well for stuff like this. So, all right. super fun. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.